Democrats have been worrying about a third-party presidential candidate for weeks now. And unfortunately for them, it looks like those fears could become a reality. The third-party group, No Labels, held its first gathering in New Hampshire yesterday, and they're vowing to offer an alternative if the nominees are Biden and Trump. The headline speaker at that event was none other than West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who's openly expressed interest in running a third-party campaign. He appeared pretty confident in his chances, too. Take a listen.
We're here to make sure that the American people have an option. And the option is, can you move the political parties off their respective sides? They've gone too far right and too far left. I've never been in any race I've ever spoiled. I've been in races to win. And if I get in a race, I'm going to win.
Sorry, Joe, but many of Biden's allies on the left and in the liberal media are not going to let that happen. The ladies of The View, for example, they freaked out over this, claiming a third-party candidate would deal Biden a major blow.
The two-party system is so deeply entrenched that just this no-labels third-party group getting in is only going to serve as a spoiler to one side. I tend to think that it ends up being a spoiler against Biden in favor of Trump. I worry is that in the effort towards centrism, it's actually going to boost extremism.
I think this is the stupidest thing ever. And so if you, John Huntsman or Joe Lieberman, I love you, Joe Lieberman, but you've got to stop this, Joe. Joe, this is insane.
This will hurt, I think, President Biden. When you look at the election in 2020, arguably, as much as Donald Trump, or as much as President Biden won, Donald Trump lost. There was a loss involved. There were a lot of people coming out to vote against Donald Trump rather than for President Biden. So I do think they'll be peeling away voters that will directly hurt President Biden if this was to go forward.
They're pretty worried, and probably have good reason. I was looking at some NBC polls, and they showed 6% voting third party in 2016, down to 2% in 2020. And those who voted third party disproportionately broke for Biden 2-1. So the understanding would be if there's a third party candidate that's viable, like Joe Manchin, may not win the election, but could take some votes away.
We're told a lot of things constitute attacks on democracy. Is it an attack on democracy to basically try to bully a potential third party off the ballot? We see this. They're very ruthless in the Democratic Party. They try to keep the Green Party off the ballot. They're going to try to keep Cornel West off the ballot everywhere they possibly can.
Bobby Kennedy.
For democracy, of course. This is what they frame it as. And you can have your issues with Trump and January 6th and all of that, and I probably agree with you on some of those points, if that's what you're going to bring up. But if you're going to say, but the solution is, let's keep it only these two parties, and we're going to shame anyone who might try to go in a different direction, I think that's a bit contradictory, point one. Point two, we were told over and over again that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are very unpopular. A lot of people might be seeking out a different option. Why shouldn't, in a democracy, people potentially have that option? Heaven forfend.
Yeah, it is a democracy, but Harris, you have the heavy hand of the Democrat Party coming down in the form of Steny Hoyer and Dick Gephardt. They are forming a super PAC to fight this effort. Not only that, you have Move On, which is a leftist organization, and Third Way, more of a centrist one, going to Capitol Hill, sounding the alarm bell. So they're trying to tamp this down.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like No Labels is Bernie Sanders, because that's exactly what they did to him. I mean, they tried to corner him. They knew that he was going to challenge the establishment. They didn't want to go that route. And, of course, he didn't make it out of the primary. So what is it about the Democratic establishment that they think is working so well that they want to protect it? Do they love Biden that much? I don't think so, because some of what we're seeing with the staff notes coming out of the Axios reporting and whatnot, that's coming from inside the House. It has to be. How many Republicans would have a good lead on who's upset in a private meeting inside the White House? That's coming from inside. So if you've got all that going on, what is it about the establishment that they want to protect? They don't have the House and the Senate. They only have one. So my question is, what is Joe Biden doing behind the scenes to fight back? Here's a guy with 50 years of experience. Is he too tired to stand up and fight for himself? I don't know. Is there a showdown coming?
It's a great question because a lot's at stake, Molly. It's not just if Joe Manchin runs for president, he could be a spoiler for Joe Biden. He would be leaving his Senate seat behind, and Republicans just need one Senate seat to change the majority.
Well, the whole reason why Joe Manchin is involved in this is because he knows he won't win election in West Virginia.
True.
Again, he's a Democrat senator in a very red state. He's been kind of pulling the wool over everybody's eyes on whether he actually votes with Democrats or not. He does, like 98% of the time. So he likes to pretend to be more of a centrist than he is. But the reason why there were so many fewer people voting third party in 2020 was because Democrats actually did lawfare to keep the Green Party and other viable third parties off the ballot, particularly in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, where they actually get tens of thousands of votes. I'm so glad people are pointing out that this rhetoric about being such fans of democracy when they're actually trying to limit people's options. But third parties will be a key player, I think, in 2024. Oddly enough, the media didn't cover any third-party candidacies in 2020. It was like they wanted to make sure that all efforts were put toward making sure that Joe Biden was able to win that election, but they won't be able to do it quite the same in 2024.
Yeah, and Maureen, a lot of times it's, these theoretical things that could happen, that could sway the election, that never transpire. But No Labels, they have $70 million, we're told. They think they can get on all 50 ballots across the country. That's a big threat.
That is, and one of the View co-hosts that we showed at the beginning said that this effort would lead to extremism. And to Guy's point, somehow choice in democracy leads to extremism. That makes no sense to me. I think what it all gets back to, Guy, I was just thinking about what you said at the beginning. It gets back to not trusting people, right? And that's where we don't trust people to make their own decisions for democracy. We don't trust people with the truth in COVID, because if you find out, some of the truth, if you find out that, hey, we were actually probably funding something similar to gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab, maybe people, won't be able to handle it. And that's the sort of, I think, the mantra of the far left, is that people are not smart enough and can't be trusted to make their own decisions. So if they, if they have too many choices on a ballot, then obviously, clearly, they're going to vote for President Trump, and wouldn't that be terrible?
Right, and No Labels, they say, we'll only do this if Trump and Biden are the nominee. We'll only do it if we think we can win, and we'll let you know by Super Tuesday. So we will keep you updated.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page